kind of want to move on to the Family and Medical Leave Act. This was something I think that was passed in the federal government sometime in the late 90s.
I think it was under Clinton.
Under
yes.
Clinton, Gore.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Gore who really pushed it. It's basically, this is a federal law that gives workers the right to take up to 12 weeks a year of unpaid leave for either illness for themselves, to care for ill family members, or for the birth or adoption of a child. It does not give, you're not paid, and there are some pretty strong stipulations in this, including the fact that the employer has to have 50 or more employees. You have to have worked at your given place of employment for at least a year, and you have to have worked at least half-time, 1,250 hours, which is 20 hours a week over a year. Kind of, we actually had a very nasty situation with a guy. This is 2 years ago. A guy named, I'm not going to say his name, but he worked for 5 years at Longview nursing home, and I think it's a nursing home. Anyways, Longview up near IC, and he had worked there for 5 years, had gotten some serious sort of cancer, and took too much time off. Took basically 13 weeks off, and they fired him. And we really confronted the situation. We went and met twice with the ownership. They actually had 45. They knew that they weren't subject to the Family Medical Leave Act because they only had 45 employees. And so, it's like an unfortunate situation. We actually said to this gentleman, his story was, a lot of times, sometimes with workers' rights cases, it can be a challenge because there's always two sides to a story. In this guy's story, his story was so squeaky clean, it was just not funny. And I think it could have been a public case. So it's like the fact you have 45 employees and not 50. You're really it's kind of felt like cruel and unusual punishment to him. He decided he did not want to go public with it, so we did not do that. That's actually, Family and Medical Leave Act. We should also be talking about, like what kind of changes need to take place in this country. I mean, a lot of the European countries, for example, the Family and Medical Leave Act, something like that, exists already, and it's paid. So, I think with every single thing that we're talking about the rights as they presently stand, but we should always be thinking about what can be changed. Like what do we need to do in order to stand up together and change these laws?
One thing to remember, if you qualify for family and medical leave, you cannot be denied it, and you can't be fired. You must be restored either to your former position or its equivalent without a loss of seniority or benefits. So you can't be punished for taking FMLA. But once again, it only does apply to people who are, work for sort of a medium size or in some cases large size, depending on where you live, company.
On the federal level as well, Senator Kennedy has actually got a bill that looks like it has some traction it's something the Federal Paid Leave Act, which would actually would require employers to give 7 paid days a year. There are no laws about anything right now with regards to paid time off. This would be the first law like that. And it was actually like in terms of
7 whole days?
7 whole days. But it's interesting because the issue of swine flu, you have a lot of people who are being told, if you're sick at all, with any sort of flu symptoms, you should not go to work. And it's like, well, there's so many people in so many different kinds of jobs in this country that's not a choice for them. You have to go to work, you have to make money. A lot of people go to work sick because they have to make the money and they're not going to get paid if they don't go. So that's why this kind of law would be especially important. And it should be a month or 2 months paid time off. So we're looking at a week, which is a week is better than what we have now.
Or even regardless of the pay issue, when I was researching termination cases that have come to the Worker Center over time, there were a lot of cases where people were terminated for missing a few days of work because they had a sickness. It wasn't even, they weren't even going to work. They were, I'm to get the money.
Right.
They couldn't go to work, but when they got back they were fired because they missed days.
Right.